that the costs outweighed the benefits. And what they were, you know, in granular detail, what they were saying was the cost to put these brakes on will raise costs for goods across the country.
Oh man, we just can't do it, brother. There's no way. Meanwhile, they got billions of dollars in liquid fucking cash that they're utilizing for stock buybacks. So it's just an absolute fucking lie. Okay? Straight up lie. Okay? Complete lie. Here's the investigation from Lever News from David Sirota. He says before his derailment, Norfolk Southern helped kill a rule to require better braking systems. As he talked about, lobbyists also convinced regulators to ignore the NTSB and exempt such trains from being strictly regulated as high hazard flammable trains. The article was written 2 years ago. My co-workers and I have been trying to tell anyone who would listen to what would happen. This was an article on Vice from March 22nd, 2021. It's going to end up like Boeing, how freight rail is courting catastrophe. Workers are sounding the alarm, and drastic cuts in employees and maintenance in order to increase profits are tempting fate. 2 years ago, they wrote this article. Just before 5 a.m. on August 2nd, 2017, Alice Murray was fast asleep when her entire house shook, almost as if a freight train had crashed into the block, she told the Cumberland Times News. That's exactly what happened.
He's streaming too. I'm not gonna stream this time.
So,
I'm clean. No, I'm not bad.
but that's not the last time, nor was it the first time that people have actually complained about this. People have been complaining about regulation and safety. Like, you know, the workers' unions have been complaining about regulation and safety for a long time. Here, back in December, a union rail worker warned about the potential for a catastrophic train derailment. Then a week ago, it happened in Ohio.
Rail workers warned us about disaster like this. I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's lack of maintenance on the track, or they've cut the track gates too short and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmen's, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we had one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin. It picked a switch and derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried. fall, rather than a single corporate executive showing up in the town that they polluted to be held accountable. You see, Wall Street owns Norfolk Southern. 74% of shares are owned by a who's who of infamous hedge funds. And this is the business model that they demand: profit at any cost. And disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. But instead of answering for any of that,
Oh, speaking of the payout, you want to see the payout? You want to see the fucking fuck you money that they gave to the town? Where the fuck is Alex Press's tweet on this? Wait, did I accidentally close that tab? They gave $25,000. Residents of East Palestine, Ohio aren't even sure if their town is safe. They're extremely troubled by dead fish in the local stream and dead chickens found in a neighboring town. But guess what, guys? Don't worry. Norfolk Southern has got your back. $25,000 to an Ohio town where it caused a life or death evacuation. Remember, the local news at the time was reporting if you are in this area, if you're in the area of the smoke cloud, it's danger, grave danger to life. They evacuated the entire town. A couple days later, they're like, come on, you can come back in. It's all good. But fear not, 25 grand, baby. You're good. On February 6th, an apocalyptic plume of gas rose over the village of East Palestine, Ohio, blotting out the sky. Norfolk Southern, the U.S. railway company responsible for the toxic spew of vinyl chloride, has now offered a $25,000 donation to assist the area's nearly 5,000 residents who were ordered to evacuate their homes or face death. Hey, man, $5 to pop. You might have birth defects. You might just get cancer 10 years down the line. But guess what? You also got $5. Think about that. Think about the $5 that you got when you get cancer, 10 years later. We have established a family assistance center to address the needs of the community and support those directly impacted, Norfolk Southern said in a statement. It remains unclear what exactly the center is doing to assist displaced residents. Norfolk Southern has a history of lobbying against safety regulations. Shocking. The publicly traded company, which has a market value of $55 billion, fought the Federal Railroad Administration's push to upgrade the Civil War-era brake system that remains widely used in American trains, and against stricter rules on the transport of hazardous materials. Meanwhile, its employees still lack guaranteed sick leave. Thank you, Joe Brandon, by the way. You are my best friend. You are the one who did this. You are the one who allowed this to continue. There is a very solid chance Norfolk Southern knew there was a hot axle on this train miles before it derailed, but ordered the crew to keep moving because stopping to inspect or set out the car would delay other trains. It will be interesting to see if NTSB is able to recover radio traffic and readouts from the defect detectors along the route. I love when we talk about, like, bro, remember how, like, they covered Chernobyl? Remember how, like, HBO Chernobyl, like, we were talking about, like, the USSR is so bad, the USSR is so bad. You know, oh, 9 Röntgen, not good, not great, right? Like, bro, this is the same shit. Breaking after the Ohio derailment, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg has no plans to reinstate Obama's brake rule, despite a warning to Congress that without it, there will be more derailments. Buttigieg's Department of Transportation is now considering a proposal that may weaken safety rules, actually. You know, guys, you know what would benefit in this time? You know what the American citizens would truly benefit from? Less regulation, which would create more derailments, because derailments are fun, you know? It's like a fun little activity. When toxic carcinogens basically enter the airwaves and also your water supply, it's like a fun thing. It's like an additional thing that you have to survive through. And everybody likes playing Fallout. A lot of people like playing that game, the video game Fallout. Why don't you want to live in Fallout world in the real world? I don't understand. You should be thanking me for creating this environment for you to enjoy. You know? Safety concerns have also grown amid Norfolk Southern's implementation of precision-scheduled railroading and operations policy criticizes the corporate money grab to cut costs, companies, slash jobs more than a fifth since 2017. Meanwhile, the unions were literally like, bro, you need to hire more people. You need to hire more people. They're like, why would we hire more people when we can get the same one, when we can get 4/5 of the same workforce to cover the same amount of work? I don't understand. That's called efficiency. You're being stupid. Well, guess what? This is what happens when you look for efficiency. Okay? But of course, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Why should they? Why should any capitalist corporation not do this if the government is very openly defending them? If the government is very openly allowing them to do this, if no executive is like even expected to go to jail for this, why should they do anything? Why? There's no legislation. There's no one forcing their hand. Why should they do this? When they can get away with throwing 25 grand, which is like honestly worse than not giving them any money, like straight up. I think it's literally giving the town that they have potentially eviscerated $25,000 of fuck you money seems worse than not giving them any money at all. It's literally like an insult. It's like, here, take this shit, fuck off. It's like when you know, police unions or cities give payouts to like victims of police brutality. Like they did this in Florida where they gave the family $4 or something for each of the children that saw their father get murdered in their own home by a cop. And then the city paid them out, I think, 25 cents a person or something, or either $4 or $1. That's a real story, by the way. That happened like in 2017. Fuck, what was I'll find it in a second. Anyway, on top of that, to make matters worse, ignoring concerns that understaffing could impact railway safety, which is what they did, they also initiated a $10 billion stock buyback program. Millions of dollars in corporate lobbying and poor regulations have created the perfect storm, according to Railroad Workers United, a cross-union rail workers caucus. The wreck of Train 32N has been years in the making. What other such train wrecks await us remain to be seen, RWU said in a press release. Oh, here, a man was shot and killed by the police. A jury gave his family $4. Yeah. Florida, baby. Nasty shit. Gregory Hill Jr. In 2014, I covered this. This is an old story that I covered way back in the day. Hill's mother sued St. Lucie County Sheriff Ken Mascara and Christopher Newman, the deputy who killed her son, for wrongful death. After nearly 2 weeks of trial and 10 hours of deliberations last month, a jury sided with the police and found that Newman did nothing wrong. The 8 jurors decided that Mascara was 1% at fault, while Hill was largely to blame for his death at 99% because he was drunk during the confrontation in his own home, in his own garage, where the cops literally shot and killed him through the garage door. Because he was listening to loud music. In a move that the family's attorney said was doubly surprising, the jury gave money to the losing party, $4, $1 for funeral costs, which was about $11,000, and another for each of Hill's 3 young children, ages 13, 10, and 7. To make matters worse, one of those 3 young children, all 3 of which who don't have a father now, One of them actually saw the cops murder her dad. Adjusting for the blame the jury placed on Mascara, the family would receive only 1% of the $4 or 4 cents, said John Phillips, who represents Hill's mother, Viola Bryant. This was a story that I covered at the time. Of course, back then, Black Lives Matter was not as fashionable. This is like, I guess, before Donald Trump like openly stated his anti-BLM sentiment. I think this was like when liberals themselves were anti-BLM too. Not to sidestep away from this conversation, but like a lot of people forget that even the Pod Save America guys used to be anti-BLM. I wonder if I can find the video and like in the comments and we can read through them if you want to see what some of these animals were saying at the time. Before it was co-opted by the Dems, you mean? I remember a tweet from the Pod Save America guys apologizing for being anti-Black Lives Matter. I forget which one it was. Let me see if I can find it. I mean, it's probably gone. It's like cleared from the airwaves. I don't know if I can ever find it, but I think it was Tommy Vitor who apologized for it openly. Yeah. For saying, I'm sorry for being anti-BLM for the longest time. By the way, shouts out to Miskit for raising $81,000 for the Turkish and Syrian recovery funds. It's very nice of him to do so. He just did a 24-hour stream. Okay, anyway, let's get back to the story.
They're betting that the corporate media, under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.
But yeah, Norfolk Southern, the rail giant whose train derailed in eastern Palestine, was offered to cut the town a check of 25 grand. 5,000 people live there. That's $5 a person. We've been talking a lot about an angle that we don't see being discussed much elsewhere. The unions try to prevent this disaster. Yeah, sorry about the possible cancer that you might have, but here's $5 per person. Have you thought about that? Oh, here, by the way, this is the train going by a hot axle detector 20 miles before it derailed. Notice anything? Yeah. I was gonna talk about this as well. There's a hotbox detector in the location of this picture, which is about 20 miles west of East Palestine, where it derailed. Was it a faulty detector, or were they told to set and release and get to the next one? Rumor has it was picked up by the detector but couldn't stop in time. FRA report will shine more light, but it might take 1 to 2 years to be released. Nice. Happy Monday. Just want to say thank you. This is my Uncle Gregory, or Uncle Greg. I just want to say thank you for getting all your viewers to see that. This is not the original video, though. This is a re-upload onto the YouTube channel. I wonder how many dislikes it has. Does anyone have a dislike detector? Back when everything was fucking so misleading. Race baiting cuckery at its finest. I don't want to get the dislike extension. I don't give a fuck. Here. It only has 349 dislikes. I'm surprised. Back then, they would get dislike botted like crazy. Cobb's dead. How can mutanoid extraction kill what? Brainwashes the lost souls. They're evil liberals, Democrats, evil, anti-American. I wanted to, look, there was a time when every single Young Turks video, every single TYT video was like, every single TYT video would get mass disliked. This video only got 33,000 views anyway, because it was just like, it was released on like a different time frame basically. So you will not get a good assessment of like whether this, you will not get a good assessment of what like the YouTube fucking what the YouTube opinion was on this. You have not aged at all. Thank you. Hey, have you talked about Ohio derailment and explosion? This is a meme, right? You must be joking. Anyway, one of the reporters, we'll get back to this in a second. We're literally currently talking about this. But we are currently in the process of talking about the Ohio derailment. That was just something I wanted to show about like fuck you, kind of like a restitution that says fuck you to victims. Here is the Ohio news reporter, the local news reporter who got arrested. Body cam footage showing members of law enforcement and top official in the Ohio National Guard confronting News Nation reporter Evan Lambert provides a different account than what the East Palestine PD released in a statement. Lambert was reportedly told his live shot discussing a train derailment was too loud while Governor Mike DeWine spoke to reporters. DeWine said he vehemently disapproved of Lambert's arrest.
I am allowed to be here. Did you not see that man put his hands on you down? You continued on. Go. Now. Go. Now. Or you can go to jail. Sir. You want to go to jail for criminal trespassing? Do you want to go to jail for criminal trespassing? Do you understand? You know how quickly our lawyers will get me out? I don't care. Sir, can we I don't care. Let's talk outside. Let's talk outside. Come out the doors. Out the doors. You're out the doors. By other media right here. I'm going to listen. I don't care. You're going to walk out the door. I'm going to listen. You're going to walk out the door. Do not touch me. Sir, can we talk outside, please? I'm trying to listen. And he escalated with me. I am doing my job.
Huh, I wonder why he got arrested. Silly goose. Don't you know it's illegal when a cop decides that you're not supposed to be in a place or wants to be a fucking petty bitch? Don't you know it's illegal to talk back to them? Especially talking back while being black? That's, you know, that's an aggravating charge, okay? I'm just letting you know.
This is covered by the First Amendment.
Excuse me, sir. I'm the building supervisor here. Please leave.
There you have it. You're going to stand outside. You are.
No, or you're going to jail. Let's go. Let's go.
You're under arrest. Under arrest. Oh, sir.
Oh my God! You guys, this is bad. Stop.
I am on the ground. What are you trying to do?
Stop resisting. Stop this. Oh my God. Stop. You want to get this. This is so bad.
Put your leg on your back. Lay flat. Lay flat, please.
You guys, it's a national police problem. You cannot do this.
Public News Nation. It's all being recorded right now.
I hope it is.
That's great stuff. Good stuff.
Talk to people about doing their jobs. This is what it's like to be a black reporter in 2023.
Good job, guys. You did it. You fucking did it. Good job. This all works in unison, guys.
It could slow down the
totally
movement
forgot
of goods, the supply chain across the country. Whether you believe that or not,
I'm gonna go grab
that's
my.
up to you.
I'm gonna go
but
grab
here's
my
what's
chicken
interesting:
that I
the
fucking
railroad
heated up
industry cited
an hour ago.
An amount,
Hold on.
$3 billion. Putting these brakes on the trains that would be required to have them would cost a total of $3 billion. Now, that's about 2 weeks of operating revenue that the train system pulls in, 2 weeks of revenue in a single year, meaning it's a tiny amount of money when you're talking about the entire rail industry, but they didn't want to spend it. And my guess is they didn't want to spend it because they presume that their current safety systems are fine. And if their current safety systems fail, that governments, whether local, state, or federal, will pick up the tab for the cleanup, for the disaster. That cost is socialized to the public, not internalized by the private company. So they made a cost-benefit analysis that, yeah, maybe the brakes would make things safer. They're the ones who actually said these brakes would improve safety. But in their cost-benefit analysis, it still wasn't worth it to them for their profit interests.
It's incredible. You know, one thing that really stood out to me, though, was it appeared as though the shareholders were very much in favor of the updated braking system. And in fact, I don't know if this is potentially fraud, but back in 2007, as you guys report in your piece, during a quarterly earnings call, the company's executives were bragging about implementing this new braking system. So, I mean, did they actually do that? Did they actually implement the new brakes? Because it appears that's not the case. So why did they say that to the shareholders?
Well, again, I think the company changed posture from prior years to its current posture. In prior years, it was essentially saying, hey, we found technology that we can go to regulators and say, hey, we don't have to necessarily follow these other safety rules because now we're developing special brakes. But then the minute the government considered requiring those special brakes, the company and the rail industry kind of writ large flipped. Now, let's be clear. I don't think it wasn't all shareholders who supported this. The shareholder resolution was brought by a group of shareholders. It ultimately didn't even get a vote by the company. But I do think I go back to this issue of what were the companies saying to the regulators and what were the regulators doing? And in this story, the thing that really, I think, blew my mind in reporting this out was you had a part of the government, the part of the government that is supposed to solely be focused on safety, not on the supply chain, not on anything else, the NTSB, literally went to the regulatory agency that regulates the railroads and said, this kind of rule should cover a much broader sweep of chemicals. It shouldn't just cover oil trains. It should cover Class 2 chemicals as well. Vinyl chloride is a Class 2 chemical. And ultimately, the Obama administration's regulators decided not to do that. And there was a town that had a big rail crossing that wrote in asking for these chemicals to be covered. So part of the craziest part of this story is the fact that These were clearly hazardous and flammable materials, but the government itself ultimately under industry pressure made a decision to not classify these kinds of trains as hazardous, flammable trains. And the question now is, will the Biden administration move to reinstate the braking rule, move to expand the definition of trains that are covered by these kinds of safety rules? There's been basically, so far, it's not clear what's going on that front.
Yeah.
Actually, real quick, I do have a follow-up question on what you just said. I'm curious, is that something the Biden administration can do unilaterally, or would that need to pass through congressional action?
No, look, Trump repealed the rule. The Obama administration originally created the rule. I mean, this is a regulatory kind of rule that transportation
Pete Buttigieg already said that he's not interested in this. Now, of course, part of the reason why Pete or Joe Biden or anyone doesn't even feel the need to address this or talk about it is because the media is not covering it. There is not enough anger. East Palestine is a tiny ass fucking town with 5,000 people in it, and nobody really gives a shit. This will continue happening over and over and over again, just like the railway unions said it would. It's just going to happen to a larger town. It's going to happen to a more populated area. It's just about assessing the risks in that situation. You know what I mean? It's basically about like how much of a stink can we make? How much damage can we get away with it? How much damage can we get away with? Especially when the media doesn't fucking talk about it. That's it. That's the reason why they don't give a shit. That's the reason why the Brandon administration is not doing anything as well. What? Not bad. Selam. Why does everything hurt? Oh.
Regulators can do.
Got it.
Yeah, I would be shocked if they did that. Absolutely shocked. And that's going to go towards my question. First, a quick correction. The railway industry put in $6 million to the Republicans overall.
Right,
John Thune was the third largest recipient of that money, but he did not get the whole $6 million. Okay, so now to the question. So, David, in the old days, what would happen is there'd be a giant fireball in the sky, and the local townsfolk would be outraged, and then they would push their representatives, and then the representatives would get in there and fight for them, but mainly the press would then talk about, oh my God, the fireball, oh my God, people in Ohio could have died, etc. And the press would create this giant concern, because we should be concerned about trains exploding near our neighborhoods, right? And then the regulators would come up with their analysis, and then the government officials would do it. That actually did happen earlier in American history. It happened all the time, right? But now we've got a breakdown in the system. First of all, you guys seem to be the only ones covering this, and great, we'll have the link to the Lever story. It's amazing in the description box below. And I don't know, do you see the rest of the press piling on? Because what I'm worried about is, and I'm not just blaming the press here, that every part of this has broken down. The press does not hold the corporations accountable, does not hold the politicians accountable. Then the politicians go, well, I'm going to get $6 million, the Republican Party is here, from these guys. I'm going to get nothing from the other side. And there's no downsides. There's no one telling people that I'm a monster who's in favor of giant fireballs in their neighborhood because I got bribed, right? No.
The media is a very important component of this, because they're the ones who are supposed to tie all of this together. And when they don't do that, the dude in Ohio doesn't fully understand who to get mad at, so he continues to get mad at like fucking, I don't know, gender neutral bathrooms or whatever the fuck. Okay? That's a issue. That's a major issue. Very, very frustrating. Not as frustrating as the top of the hour ad break, which everyone in that town of Ohio will be able to avoid if they use their $5 that they got, all 5,000 of them. getting a Twitch sub here. Okay, if you're in East Palestine, you can use your $5 that you got from the Norfolk Southern Railroad Company on something good, like top of the hour ad break avoidance. Of course, if you haven't used it on that, if you got like a Frappuccino or something, you can use your free one in the form of a Twitch Prime. And if you've already used your free one, man, maybe if you're lucky, you can get gifted a sub. The Dancing Elephant just gifted 5 gifted subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
No one's telling them that. And in the middle of the story, David, it seemed like the industry realized that in between 2014 and today, they're like, oh, there's no ramifications. Why would we do extra costs? Who cares if people die in these accidents, etc.? That's a tiny cost to us. We don't want to incur the larger financial cost. And it turns out, my God, nobody's guarding the bank.